Eren Kruger was the antepenultimate holder of the Attack Titan, who posed as a Marleyan soldier during the 810s and 20s, torturing and dooming thousands of his own people to become mindless Titans in order to maintain his own cover, while simultaneously acting as the Owl, the alien restorationist secret leader and informant. Everything he does takes place many years before the main story in Chapter 1 even starts. And in this video, which is part 1 of a series on Eren Kruger, we're going to go through Kruger's entire life shown in the story chronologically. So from the start, his childhood trauma, to finish. His off-screen death when he administers a Titan spinal fluid syringe to Grisha Jäger, turning him into a mindless Titan and letting himself be eaten in order for Grisha to inherit the Attack Titan's powers. In Chapter 88, the Attack Titan, or more like Chapter 88, Shingeki no Kyojin, referencing the title of the entire series, we learn about Kruger's childhood. He is an Eldian boy, born in a Marleyan ghetto, when his father joins the Eldian Restorationists. The Eldian Restorationists were an undercover group of Eldians, secretly organizing against Marleyan rule, hoping to eventually be able to overthrow Marley and free all Eldians living in ghettos someday. At some point, they are caught, and Kruger's entire family pays for the father's actions. They are burned alive in front of Kruger's eyes, while he can do nothing but watch through a crack in the door of the closet he managed to hide in. The members of the royal family who stayed on the continent formed an insurgent force, and my father joined. But they weren't able to do a thing. In the end, they were all burned alive with their families. I was just a child. All I could do was watch through a crack in the closet door. I was too scared to do anything else. My father's friends saved me just before my hometown burned down. After that, I swore to get revenge on Marley and to restore Eldia. It looks like his family consisted of 2 adults, presumably his parents, and 1 child, looking like it was maybe an innocent younger sibling that Kruger also lost. And they even burned his entire hometown down. This kind of event, witnessing such barbaric cruelty and losing your loved ones, and apparently even his home, since the entire town where the Restorationist resided was burned to the ground, at such a young age of course is the perfect gateway to radicalization, and making young Kruger hate Marley even more than he might have before, swearing revenge. There's no way the entire town was involved with the Restorationists, of course, but clearly this was not about the money. It was about sending a message, discouraging all other Eldians from ever attempting resistance. This is pretty standard practice in authoritarian regimes, to discourage anyone else from rebelling. Ghoulish overkill is a warning, so to speak, making it known that punishment for resisting is so severe that most people simply won't dare to even talk about it. It also speaks to the dehumanization Eldians face. They're just collectively punished, killed even, an entire town burned down for the actions of a few rebels. I mean, even as a child, not wearing your armband, identifying you as Eldian, can get not only you but your entire family killed. After that, Kruger keeps working with his father's friends underground, one of whom must have been the holder of the Attack Titan at this time. At some point, he is able to falsify his blood test. I just found a cooperative doctor. He too was the subject of Ymir. He had falsified his own medical records to pose as a Marleyan, and joins the Marleyan public security authorities and garners their trust for a few years in order to spy on them and eventually find and provide information to a new chapter of the Eldian Restorationists. During his time as an undercover soldier, one day, that day, in 817, Kruger happens to notice Grisha and Faye outside of their internment zone. This is when we, the audience, are introduced to Kruger for the first time, knowing nothing about him at this point. He is lying by the river, looking onto the airship, while his colleague Rose is smoking a cig, just living the comfortable life soldiers tend to live in times of peace, I guess. And he's the one who asks Grisha for their exit permits. Come to see the airship too? You're from the Liberia internment zone, aren't you? Show me your exit permits. Grisha and Faye are rightfully scared shitless. They got caught, they know they're in huge trouble, and we see Kruger standing up and putting his hat on, seeming like a pretty menacing, threatening force here. When Grisha fails to produce any permits, and admits that he doesn't have one, he clarifies. So, you entered the city without authorization. You know what that means for you, right? Surprisingly, Kruger actually crouches down and meets the kids at eye level instead of looking down on them. So his body language is actually a little comforting in that moment, and he even shows understanding for Grisha's choice of discipline. Which shall it be? Labor or punishment? Heh! Don't want to worry your parents? Alright. He then still proceeds to brutally knee Grisha in the gut twice, once for Grisha, once for Faye, while Gross pretends to be shocked by his mercilessness and leads Faye to a brutal death. After he's done, and while Grisha lies on the ground recovering, Kruger sits on the hill and keeps looking over at the blimp. He starts talking to Grisha. "It was smart of you to keep your armbands on. Any alien that takes theirs off out here gets sent straight to your heaven, even kids like you." When Grisha attempts to get up and return home, he stops him. "Wait, you came to see the airship, didn't you? You're here. Might as well see it." And so he and Grisha sit there silently for a while, looking at the blimp. The next day, when Faye's dead body is found in the river, is most likely when Kruger learns what Gross did to her as well. He is present when the Jäger family is lied to by Gross about what happened, leaning on the wall next to him, taking a back seat and just observing it all. In this moment, he notices the look on Grisha's face, especially his eyes. Your hate, for the state, for your father, and for yourself. That hate I saw in your eyes could have burned the world to ashes. In 819, 5 years before Grisha joins the Restorationists and 2 years after that day, Kruger inherits the Attack Titan. While Kruger is secretly working to restore Eldia, he has no choice but to play a loyal Marleyan soldier. This means prosecuting, torturing, and murdering his own people for years and years. I cut off the fingers of thousands of subjects of Ymir. Thousands. I took them here and turned them into titans, women and children too. I believe I did it all to serve Eldia. I swore to get revenge on Marley and restore Eldia, but to do that I had to take the fingers of the people I wanted to protect, to skin them alive, to kick them down from here and turn them into titans. My full devotion to that is what kept my identity from being revealed until today. While working in his role as a double agent, he never forgets about Grisha and that burning hatred in his eyes, and probably keeps an eye on him all these years, knowing that he might step into his father's footsteps of becoming a doctor. Then in 824, he tells Grais that there was an alien doctor with an incomparable hatred for Marley who should be recruited, and Grais visits Grisha, who is now assisting in his father's clinic, shows off his scar and successfully recruits him. Grisha's journal describes what the Owl's role was in their movement. The informant led the Restorationists from the shadows. We knew him only as the Owl. The Owl supplied us with weapons and funds, and gave us historical documents that aliens in those days had forgotten about. The historical documents were probably saved by his father's friends from the first time the Restorationists were discovered and burned to the ground, and came directly from the royal family. Due to his burning hatred and passion, Grisha quickly becomes a leader in the movement. Kruger also finds Dinah Fritz. She is the last surviving member of the royal family that remained on the mainland after King Fritz took the majority to Paradis and locked them all inside the walls. It's very likely that the rest of her family was killed the same night Kruger's was, since the royal family was working with the group his father joined. The Restorationists, led by Grisha and Dinah, welcome an heir and actually operate successfully for 7 years, until, of course, things go horribly wrong. Zeke snitches, and in 832, the Restorationists all get tortured and shipped to Paradis. Kruger walks into Grisha's torture chamber and asks them if they found anything out. It was smart of him to never reveal his identity to any members, because now nobody can give him up, and I'm sure somebody would have, as most people would when facing immense pain and torture. One of the Malayan soldiers describes pretty aptly what the existence of the Owl meant for Marley and what their plan was. The Owl. What a terrifying state of affairs. To think there was someone organizing the alien Restorationists from inside our own government. Not only that, he was sending little kids to act as his spies, as they became Marley warriors. He even had a plan to steal the founding Titan from the island of Paradis, and undermine Marley's Titan forces. Grisha recognizes him, but can't place his face. Kruger simply tells him, "Time for a boat ride. We're going to heaven." When they arrive, Kruger tells Grisha, "That's right, Paradis, the penal colony for alien traitors. Your people's heavenly kingdom. You're going to be serving a life sentence here for the crime of treason. And you'll be serving it as a mindless Titan. You'll sense humans, chase humans, and eat humans. That's all you'll be doing until the day you die. Of course, there's almost no way to die here." This is how we, the audience, get full confirmation in what exactly all the mindless Titans wandering around the walls are originated from. They're aliens who were sentenced to go to heaven, a deeply cynical name derived from King Fritz wanting to create a paradise within the walls of the island, and wander the island as mindless titans for eternity, trapped in what feels like a never-ending nightmare. Grisha then realizes who Kruger is, that he was there that day, and Kruger looks down on Grisha with pity and sorrow. After everyone else is turned into mindless titans and proceed to chase poor Greiz down, Gross tells Kruger to turn Grisha too, but he stalls. No. I still want to interrogate him. When they bring Dinah around to be transformed as well, Grisha is shocked because he expected them to keep someone with royal blood around. When he attempts to tell everyone in order to save Dinah from being transformed, Kruger silences him. Shut up. Grisha then screams at Gross about how he fed his little sister to dogs. Gross then tells all the other soldiers to leave. Gross then freely admits to having Faye eaten alive by his son's dogs, and decides to make Grisha dance, having him fight a small glass titan to the death for his own sick form of entertainment. He holds Grisha by the ledge and taunts him, making fun of his little sister calling for him, when Kruger finally steps in and pushes Gross off. While they watch Gross being devoured, Kruger asks Grisha, well, is it as much fun as he made it out to be? I'm the owl. Watch and learn, Grisha. This is how you use the power of the Titans. Grisha's journal entry describes what happens next. Around the time the soldiers ran out of ammunition, the owl, now a Titan, crushed their steamships into dust, which he spread across the ocean. Soon he'd squeezed the soldiers themselves dry and thrown them in the ocean too, like discarded pieces of fruit. So the steamships the Mali public security authorities used to take us here, and everything those soldiers carried, every trace that they ever existed here on this island, had vanished. Kruger comes out of the Titan, nose bleeding and looking like hell, and encourages Grisha to ask him anything, telling him he doesn't have a lot of time. He reveals his identity and his backstory, which we already covered, and then tells Grisha, I have to say, you did a good job. You led the Restorationists at a young age, and even produced an heir with Dinah Fritz. Even your plot to make Zeke into a Marley soldier. It was a realistic plan, considering the support you would have had from me. But in the end, the results were just as Greiz lamented, weren't they? As Grisha angrily questions him on why he didn't act sooner, didn't save the others, Kruger drops to his knees from exhaustion and weakness and explains how they were but a fraction of the thousands of aliens he had already killed, and that he did it all to save Eldia. Grisha is asking Kruger to, then show me how. And Kruger responds, yes, I will. I'm short on time, Grisha. I'm entrusting you with my final mission. You and not anyone else. Then they sit next to each other looking at Paradis, and Kruger brings up that day. That day, when we first met. If I hadn't called out to you and stopped you, you may have been able to save your sister. Grisha responds that he thinks, it's more likely that I would have been killed alongside her. Kruger responds, it puts me at ease that you think that. But in any case, if that had never happened, you probably would have never hated Marley as much as you do now. Grisha asks him if that's why he picked him. It's part of it, he responds, and tells him what we already covered, about seeing the hate in Grisha's eyes that could have burned the world into ashes. How he was once the same because of his backstory, having to hide in the closet without being able to do anything. He also ponders, maybe I'm still the same as then. I'm just looking out into the world from a crack in the closet door. He tells Grisha his mission. You will go inside the walls and take back the founding Titan. You'll use the power of the Titan you will inherit from me. You'll become a Titan, and you will eat me. It's impossible to reach the walls without the power of the Titans. There, you'll use your power to take the founding Titan from its owner. I haven't told you everything I know, because my goal was to raise morale of the Restorationists. Anyone who inherits the power of the 9 Titans will die in 13 years, and I inherited it 13 years ago. If you had known that, you wouldn't have been so eager to have Zeke or Dina take on the Founding's powers. He then gives us a bit more exposition. I won't read it out since talking about the whole can of worms that is the Paths realm would burst the scope of this video. This is solely about Kruger, but if you want a refresher on how Paths work, you pause and read the slide. The important part to note here is that we actually see Eren, not Kruger, deliver this exposition in the present day. And then when we switch back to 832, the time and location of Kruger and Grisha 3 years before Eren was born, it's actually Eren sitting on the wall with Grisha. In other words, that is the Founding Titan. All Titans, all subjects of Ymir, are connected to that coordinate, through paths that transcend physical space. That is the most recent theory, posited by the Marley government's Titan Biology Research Society. Grisha asks, so you're saying that magic exists? And that our ancestor Ymir was a witch all along? So which is it? The Marleyan authorities call her a pawn of the devil. To the Eldian Empire, she was a god-given miracle. Were all of those historical documents you sent us nothing more than fuel for our morale too? So then what is the truth? What is our real history? Eren Kruger responds, when she was a girl, our ancestor Ymir touched the source of all living matter. There are some who say that too. There is no such thing as truth in this world. That is our reality. Anyone can become a god or a devil. All it takes is for someone to claim it for it to be true. 17 centuries of ethnic cleansing? If that were true, there wouldn't be a strand of Malayan hair left on this planet. Our ancestor, Ymir, brought us nothing but wealth with the power of the Titans? That doesn't sound like any human I've ever heard of. Grisha then asks if Dinah was even of royal blood, and if Kruger let her be transformed because that was a lie. Unfortunately, it is true that Dinah was of royal blood. She was probably the one thing that wasn't taken away from the insurgents. Because she was of royal blood, there was no way I could let her fall into our enemy's hands. Zeke would surely tell Marley everything. It was a matter of time before they saw his words were more than a child's babble. Even so, would you prefer she spent the rest of her life forced to bear children for her enemy? Honestly, being turned into a man-eating monster might be preferable to that. Not that I asked her, of course. But seeing her in those last moments, I think I made the right choice. Still, it was entirely because I wasn't strong enough, that I wasn't able to save our brothers and sisters. Only one person can reach the wall from here, the one person with the power of the Titans within them. I did my job. Now you do yours. To be honest, I don't think I'm fit for the job. Didn't I just destroy the Eldian Restorationists, an organization you created? You're going to do it. If I had known this was the price for freedom, I never would have paid it. I'm sorry, but you've made a terrible miscalculation. I'm sorry. I can't hate anything anymore. Kruger then tells Grisha, your father was a smart man. Yes, your father. The man who smiled and nodded at the authorities, even though they barely lifted a finger after his own daughter was killed. He was trying not to lose any more of his family. He was desperate to make sure you stayed off the wrong path. But his son learned nothing from him. Worse, he shipped his own wife and son straight to hell. What are you trying to say? Stand. Fight. Didn't I tell you, Grisha Jäger? I'm short on time. There's still information I haven't told you yet. You're supposed to lead with that. You need to make a vow to me first, that you will fight again to restore Eldia's freedom and dignity with your own life on the line. If you'll fight, then stand. I can't. Eren Kruger shows him the picture that Grisha left behind in one of his books in the basement of his former family, him, Zeke and Dina posing for a portrait. I can't look. No will to look. No will to stand. No will to fight. You've got no balls, huh? Have you been castrated by Marley? It's pointless to try to make me recall my hatred. All I have left are my sins. That's enough. The main reason I chose you wasn't because you hated Marley far more than any other. It's because you went past the wall that day. If you had never gone outside with your sister, you would have inherited your father's clinic. Your little sister would be an adult by now, probably married. Perhaps she would be a mother. You would never have met Dinah, and Zeke would never have been born. But you went past the wall. We sought freedom, and our brothers and sisters paid the price for it. There's only one way to pay them back. From the first day I came here to kick my compatriots to their deaths. From the day you brought your sister outside the wall. Those actions will follow us until they're repaid. Even if we die. Even after we die. After all, you started this story, didn't you? So Kruger tells Grisha that if he doesn't have a will, he at least could act to repay those who've died so far. Similar to the logic of the Survey Corps, that if they quit, everyone before them who was killed would have died in vain. Kruger himself acts out of guilt as well. He of course doesn't want his years of killing thousands of aliens to have been in vain, so there is no choice but to keep going really. This motivates Grisha to finally get up, grab the picture of his family and accept his mission. Eren Kruger tells him, "Each of the 9 Titans has a name. That includes the one you're about to inherit from me. In every era, this Titan has always moved ahead seeking freedom. It has fought on for freedom. Its name is the Attack Titan, Shingeki no Kyojin." He then gives some more exposition that would be again out of the range for this video. Feel free to pause and read the whole thing. Kruger is basically saying that the only reason aliens still exist is so that they can be used as weapons of war. Meaning any alien living in a ghetto could be plucked out of it by the military someday, to be turned into a mindless titan and let loose on enemy combatants. We see how this works in chapter 91, where Marley makes mindless titans rain from the skies. Aliens face only 2 possible futures: be used as weapons or be eradicated. Kruger also explains the vow to renounce war that the Survey Corps only have been speculating about so far, and that the royal family won't ever fight but just take everything lying down, welcoming extinction if the rest of the world decides on it, dooming all their subjects. As he prepares the Titan injection for Grisha, he tells him, "Make a family. You need a full household once you enter inside the walls." Grisha responds, "What are you talking about? I have Dinah, and all my memories from before I become a Titan will disappear anyway, won't they?" "Not necessarily. Someone may see them later. Your wife, your child, even someone on the street. It does not matter. Love someone inside the walls. If you can't, we're doomed to repeat it all again. The same history, the same mistakes. Again and again. If you want to save them all, Mikasa, Armin, and the others, carry out your mission to the end." Of course, Grisha is confused by this and doesn't know who Mikasa or Armin are because they don't even exist yet, so he asks, "Mikasa? Armin? Who are they?" Who knows? Whose memories could these be? And this is the last thing we hear him say. So this concludes this video. We've laid out the entire history of Eren Kruger, and I think almost every word he ever speaks within the story. If you like this content, please comment, share, like and subscribe. I might make more. Stay tuned for part 2, where we will start analyzing and contextualizing everything to do with Eren Kruger. Starting with the alien restorationists, the similarities between the Marley public security authorities and the Nazi secret police, the Gestapo, and of course the many connections between Eren Kruger and our main character, Eren Yeager. Thanks for watching, see you next time, and until then, remember to always keep moving forward.